The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
And we are back. And, we actually got two different cigars. What are you smoking this week, Brad?
So I've got the Partagas, the Decadas, the 10-year, the 2021. I think somebody might have even gifted me this cigar. I just had it chilling in my humidor, and I was like, I grabbed it, and I've had it riding around with me in my car for a little while.
That's what happens when, you have to come straight from work to recording, and you don't pick up we don't get the same cigar. Well, this week, I'm smoking the CAO Flathead V23, that new, which is crafted in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of Le Mans. The Mark I 660, celebrates the V8 that claimed victory over a half-century ago.
I mean, so we're both doing something that's a throwback. There's a lot of history between our two sticks, even though they're vastly different histories.
Which this one has a Honduran Jamastran wrapper, a Nicaraguan Habano binder, and fillers from Brazilian Matafina, Honduran Jamastran Viso, Nicaraguan Jalapa Viso, and Nicaraguan Esteli Ligero.
Well, I've got you beat, because I've got a proprietary Brazilian Cameroon wrapper.
Ooh.
With U.S. Connecticut Habano binder, with fillers from Ometepe, Esteli, Jalapa, all Nicaraguan regions, and some Dominican Palito Cubano.
Yeah, and the thing with these V-Series flatheads, they always have really nice boxes. So if you wanted to pick up a full box, this year's version, the V23, design is inspired by the Ford GT. So it's got cool quilted leather on the inside and shit, and it's that kind of like that blue from anyone who watched Ford versus Ferrari. kind of that same similar stylings.
Well, I gotta say, there's no missing this label. It's so blue, it's flashy. This is one that's gonna stand out as well.
It's shiny.
It's a shiny.
It's a shiny. So, this week, we're going back to a galaxy far, far away. We're talking Ahsoka, the series. And if you've got to fight zombie stormtroopers, you should call in Strikeforce. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Use your promo code CigarNerds for 20% off your order. Comes in a tiny little tin pouch. Fit inside a space whale. You can fit a lot of Strikeforce inside a space whale.
That you can. So what kind of flavor profile are you working with? You told me all about the cigar and the artwork. What the hell does it even taste like, Joe?
A little earthy, a little nutty, with just a hit of peppery. It's we're just starting off, so they say it's a medium full, but we shall see. It's got a nice little kick up front.
It's kind of funny, how vastly different the cigars look. But I'm absolutely saying medium full on this cigar as well. A bit more, the spice is very prevalent in this, I guess, from all the volcanic soils of Nicaragua. But, notes of leather, notes of cedar, notes of, I haven't quite pinpointed what kind of spice, It lingers almost like a cayenne type spice.
Yeah, this one kind of starts off with that earthy nuttiness. I haven't gotten. I catch the hint of spice, but it's not really kicked up yet. It's still more of that kind of sweet earthiness so far. So we'll see how it develops as we go.
Yes, we shall see. Hopefully, we don't forget.
Hey, what was that? Oh shit, we forgot to review it at the end.
But that's usually the sign of a good review, because I would much rather sit, smoke, and enjoy my cigar than I had to sit there and overanalyze my cigar, and like if I could just enjoy it, I know it was a good cigar. If I have to overanalyze it, I feel like I'm taking something away. It's time for a second cigar.
Yeah. And speaking of overanalyzing, we're going to talk about Star Wars stuff because, Star Wars fans definitely don't overanalyze shit.
I started the Thrawn book series today, actually.
Speaking of overanalyzing, that's a analyzing motherfucker right there. It's like a blue Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. Well, I'm sure more of that's to follow. I think we tried to transition into the main segment like 4 times now, and yet here we are.
If we weren't getting sidetracked, we'd get no tracked at all. I don't know, that made sense in my head. But with that, we'll be right back. And welcome back. Here we are.
I mean, did we go anywhere?
We went to a galaxy far, far away.
Oh. I feel like I'm still here with the same cigar. Time travel's weird. Like, we went way back in time, but it feels like I've never left.
Yeah, so we are talking about Ahsoka, a.k.a. Star Wars Rebels Season 6, or whatever it is. Because
I was really worried I was going to be lost with this series. Because I kind of started Rebels, and then I fell off watching Rebels. And then you're like, hey, we're going to talk about this. And I'm like, crap. like you get on a level of Star Wars that...
Oh, I'm like...
I understand, like, now, like, why you get on that level. And just because there's so much. And it's like, yeah, I might be like 30-something years late to the game, but here I am, like, falling down the inevitable rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, like, as a relatively new Star Wars fan, this has inspired me to actually go back and, like, start reading Star Wars books and stuff. Like,
yeah, because there's a mass of the... Last thing, too, is, like, when Disney took over Star Wars, they nuked the old, what we called the expanded universe. Now it's called Legends, which that's what most of my fucking book collection is. But in doing that, we got like a whole of history, because the new movies came out, and that left us with, like, let's say 30 years of now blank story canvas that these Disney Plus series have done a pretty good job of starting to slowly fill in that time gap between, the fall of the Empire and the rise of the fucking First Order, or whatever the hell Kylo Bitch Boy Ren's crew was called. And with that, we've gotten Grand Admiral Thorne back, and some of these other... So it's going to be interesting to see where this shit goes. And we made the reference that this is just a new season of Star Wars Rebels. Dave Filoni, who's been kind of like the co-creator of The Mandalorian and stuff with along with Favreau, he wrote all the cool animated shit back in the day. Like, he was part of Clone Wars, part of Rebels, and now that he is kind of the showrunner on this Ahsoka series, a lot of those creations are all now making that jump to live action, and it's cool as shit. Like, literally, like, if you go back and watch the last episode of Rebels, I think it's like episode 2 of Ahsoka, like, ends like with the, like, Ahsoka basically begins with what we saw at the end of Rebels. It's like almost like completely redid that ending shot in freaking live action, which was like kind of cool as shit to see, kind of how him getting a chance to either, I don't know, you want to call it wrap up or continue that story he started in the Rebels cartoon series.
I don't know. I think for me, like, there was absolutely nothing wrong with, like, following Luke's story and Leia's and everything else. Like, to me, it's just awesome to get a breath of sort of like fresh air. Like, you've been following that story for like the last 30 years. I've been following it for like the last 5 or so. But getting episodes like this, getting to experience different story arcs, different planets, that sort of thing, like, that's kind of what's opened my eyes to. There's so much of this universe.
Yeah, there's so much
that
shit.
I didn't even, know about, just watching, episodes 1 through 6, and then, the modern, take with Rey and Kylo and that sort of thing. Like,
yeah, and that was the thing was like when we jump to the new movies with Kylo, you're like, how, like, it's only been a couple decades. Like, how did the New Republic, like, when the last time we saw them, like, yeah, we defeated the Empire, we're gonna start a new government, and you're like, they're already fallen to like basically Empire 2.0. Like, how the fuck did, like, that's a shitty rebellion. But now, like, you've seen it with some of the last season of The Mandalorian, some of the new books I've been reading, where it's like, oh, you're really good at being rebels without your constraint, but when you try to become the government, they're a pretty shitty government. Like as soon as bureaucracy and politics start becoming a thing, it's like, yeah, we fucked all this shit up.
But at the same time, like, could that be said that that's kind of the downfall of any society? Because then it becomes, it's all just a big power struggle.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like I think it's Bloodlines was one of the books I read where it's like kind of showing like the early government, where it's like they were so scared of a new emperor rising that they didn't have like a central leader. Like, the chancellor is basically just kind of like a moderator, and like the Senate, all like everything has to be voted on and shit, and then, like, nobody can agree, and it's like the government is just completely fucking ineffective because it's like,
hey, it's like modern government.
yeah. So it's like we get, Ahsoka is still out there being a rebel, and we'll back you up, and then as soon as General Hera has to go ask permission to like take her fleet somewhere, the fucking government's like, oh no, you can't do that. We don't have any proof that But back in the day, it's like, fuck that. There's some Empire shit going on. Let's go blow some shit up. It's like, the chain of command was much easier back in the day than now. You have to get like Senate approval to go fight evil.
Watch your exhaust ports.
Yeah.
That's always an amazing thing to me, with all like the cool ships and the badass technology and everything else, and it's like, aha! But our exhaust port is our weakness.
Well, isn't your exhaust port your weakness?
I don't know if it's a weakness or not.
It's all fun and games, and somebody gets a torpedo in the exhaust port.
I mean, maybe that just means it's more fun in game. I don't know, Joe. I don't
go either
know.
way.
Yeah. There's a 50-50.
Oh, so we get live action Sabine Wren, played by Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Of course, we get Rosario Dawson returning as Ahsoka Tano. Anakin's Padawan, now Jedi master herself, I guess, since there's not a whole lot of Jedis left. It's like her and Luke and a couple other random fuckers around the galaxy. But and we get our first live action version of Hera Syndulla, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's kind of already in the Star Wars family because she's married to freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi in real life. This is Mrs. Ewan McGregor. But as excited as I was to see the live action versions of the Rebels, I was kind of more excited to see live action fucking Chopper and like the Ghost and like the ships and shit from Rebels. I'm like, fuck yeah, it's Chopper, and he's just as much of an asshole in real life as he is in the animated version.
Dude, I mean, it was just so badass, like, at Dragon Con this year. Like,
Oh yeah, that
Just-
fucking chopper we saw
Yes.
was legit.
Like, I don't know if somebody built that or if they just bought it, but I'm like just walking down a random hall and there's like an entire collection of fucking badass droids. I want a badass droid.
And also David Tennant as Hu Yang, which is basically like 1,000-year-old droid who was the kind of lightsaber construction, and like so all the younglings and Padawans like would go to him to learn how to build lightsabers, which we saw him in the Clone Wars cartoon series. Not sure how he eventually came to be hanging out with Ahsoka, but fucking David Tennant, just I don't know, man. And that's the thing too about the live action series. Like, where possible, Dave has included the voice actors that played this stuff in the anime. So, on The Mandalorian, we had Katie Sackhoff, who voiced Bo-Katan, playing Bo-Katan. In this, we got, David Tennant voiced the bot, and he voices Hu Yang in this series as well. Even Clancy Brown, who played I can't remember his name, but he was basically the governor of Lothal, and so we got to see him playing that character live action. And even when we finally get to Grand Admiral Thrawn, it's Lars Milkinson who voiced the character on Rebels, and he's got kind of a up until this point, not really. I've read a lot of the Thrawn stuff, the original Heir to the Empire trilogy, and then the new books in the new continuity, and I'm about halfway through the new where it's like takes place when he's still in the ascendancy before he joined the Empire. It's like kind of a young whatever, I guess, origin of the character. But his voice acting he has a very I don't know, he doesn't seem that menacing in the books because it's very much told from his perspective, and even though he's working for the bad guys, he's got kind of a code of honor and respects his opponents. And he's like a blue fucking Sherlock Holmes, especially in the books where it goes deeper into kind of his thought process, but just his calmness, even the shit he says just sounds so menacing, even though it's he's not like Darth Vader where he's just full of rage and shit. No, this guy's a fucking genius, and I will destroy. I'm playing chess, you're playing checkers, and I'm always 5 steps ahead of you, so I don't need to be stressed out. But it's just his kind of calm demeanor makes him even more oh, this dude's gonna fuck some shit up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always the thing. The person that's just acting out of sheer rage, it's yeah, you might be unpredictable. You might get some licks in here or there, but the guy that's a true, playing the long game and, playing to strategy and psychology, it's that's the dude that's going to fuck you up.
Yeah, because if you don't know anything about the character of Granum, he's a genius, but he's very much the warrior poet. He's very much into art, and looking at a culture's art, he can kind of predict how they're going to act based on history and shit. And it's kind of cool just how he his brain works. And I do when he first finds out, because he's never met Ahsoka Tano that I can remember, and and we'll get into it later on, but he's one of the few people that knows Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. That's kind of a secret in the Empire, but he's smart enough to know that shit, and he actually, in some of the books, served with both Anakin and Darth Vader. And when he's oh, there's a Jedi coming to stop us. Get me everything you have on this Ahsoka Tano. And then his minion comes back. He's like, oh yeah, she's gives him like, this is everything we have on her, and he's like, her master was Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, prepare for battle. There will be no negotiating with the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker.
But I just think it's, kind of great, like, when it comes to battles and stuff, and he's like, you know what? We're going to sacrifice this ship. We're going to sacrifice this group. So, like, small victories that'll be perceived to him are just like, nope, this is all part of the master plan.
Yeah, he's like always like 5 steps ahead of everybody. But we've got some new characters introduced in this series. We've got Balin Skull, played by Ray Stevenson, and his apprentice Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sakno. And I always like bad guys that you kind of understand them. They're not just like evil for evil's sake. And, Ray is basically, he has fallen to the dark side, but he's not a Sith, that I would say. He's not like out for, I don't want to control the galaxy. He's operating, he's not like, oh, I'm the next Dark Lord of the Sith. No, him and his apprentices are operating as fucking mercenaries. They're just like, we can use the dark side because we're no longer, we got kind of disillusioned with the whole Jedi thing, but we're also not trying to take over the galaxy. We're just trying to make a buck. So he's like very much like you see people like Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, any of these like Sith lords, how they, being an angry asshole makes me powerful, where this dude's just very much like, like I'm going to kill you because I'm getting paid to kill you, but it's kind of a shame that I have to kill you because, there's not a lot of Jedi left. He's like, you're almost like, is this guy a bad guy? Because he's very like kind of nice about things, where it's
I'm going to kill you with kindness.
Yeah, he's almost like, I've just seen too much shit in the world and I'm kind of tired of it all. Where his apprentice is very much like, I want power and all this other stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's like the Jedi and the Sith. It's just the fucking same side of the different sides of the same coin. And it's like just this never ending cycle. And I kind of want to, this mission, I think, is going to find a way to kind of stop that cycle. Like I want more than power. I want like, fucking peace. He's basically like, fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith. Like we got to find something new.
It's like this whole two side system is just not working. Like, where's the middle ground?
Yeah. Kind of sounds, familiar. He's the Star Wars, like, libertarian.
But I mean, that is the thing. Like, politics is all wrapped up. I mean, I think that was one of the reasons I was a little bit late to Star Wars, is because I knew, like, the symbolisms, tied so much into political history and stuff like that. But it was designed to be, it's space, it's fun, it's entertaining, and, like, is it though? Is it? Like, I live in the sad, grim reality that everything sucks. Like,
and I gotta say, his character too is very, like, when him and Ahsoka duel, they're pretty much the same character nearly, because she's very much like gray Jedi, where she's like, I don't agree with everything the Jedi did, but I'm still a follower of the light side. Where he's like, I don't really agree with everything the Jedi or the Sith did, but I'm more inclined to follow the dark side, where it's like both of them are very much wanting to be in the middle, but she's just leans a little light and he leans a little dark.
I don't know where I would fall.
And he even says when they first like finally duel, because she's fought his other little associate and Shin there, and he's like, I don't really want to kill you, but this is the only way. Like you're too much of a Jedi. You see no other way than fight. Like, we could both like coexist, but you think you have to destroy, when there's like a fucking middle ground. And then like the second time they meet up, he's like, I don't have to kill you. There isn't, she's finally kind of come around after her kind of final lessons, which we'll get into that in a second. And, and she just like, I don't have to kill you. I just have to distract you. And, and he's like, we meet again. I hate to kill you, but I can't let you interfere. And she's like, yeah, you're right. There is another way. I don't have to kill you either. I just have to get around you. And just fucking, distracts him with a strafing run and steals his fucking horse dog. All right. Better new alien, horse dogs or turtle grasshopper guys? Which would sell more toys?
I don't know. I kind of wanted them both. Like, the fucking turtle guy is just badass. Like, they just want to chill, do their own thing, Like, they're not out fucking with anybody or, It's not like the fucking Jawas where it's like, they're going to steal all your shit or anything. It's like...
There's peaceful nomads trying to not get, killed by the witches or or the, roaming marauders on this planet. But back to the kind of the reasoning behind all this. If you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, it ended with what's his name? Ezra Bridger summoning the Star Whales, and they basically grabbed Grand Admiral Thorne's ship and jumped them all into hyperspace into unknown territories. Well, apparently they actually jumped to a whole new galaxy, a galaxy even farther away, where he's been kind of stranded because he's like, all right, you're the Empire's greatest weapon. We're just going to sit this war out. And of course the New Republic, aka Rebels, won. And in the books, Grand Admiral Thrawn returned at some point and tried to rebuild the Empire, which looks how we're going to get a version of that in the new Star Wars universe, because of course this ends with Thrawn getting rescued. But yeah, so there's a map to this other galaxy that Ahsoka is trying to find, and it's coded, so she has to go seek out Sabrine Wren because she's cool with technology to try to unlock this map. But then also the bad guys are trying to get said map. I do like when we first see Ahsoka in this, when she's like playing fucking Tomb Raider on some world, where she's just using her lightsabers like cut holes and shit, and then like pops up and there's like this battle droid there's like, give us the map, or face us. And she's like, us? And then like all the droids pop up, and then she just like starts playing whack-a-mole. Jumps back in the hole and starts just like cutting holes and dropping dudes in.
Somebody gave Indiana Jones a lightsaber.
Speaking of referencing other movies, did you like how the fucking Lord of the Rings shit that happened? Because she starts off, she's very much grayscale, wearing gray robes, all this other shit. And then the first time she fights Balin Skull, she gets knocked off a cliff into the ocean and wakes up in basically the world between worlds from Rebels, which is basically like a shadow realm or whatever, where she sees Anakin for one last lesson. But when she comes back from the dead, she's all white, like wearing white robes and white outfits. It's
I
like
started off as Gandalf the Grey.
Yes.
I am now Gandalf the White.
Started off as Ahsoka the Grey and fought the Balrog and came back as Ahsoka the White. But besides, this whole thing had a very samurai movie feel to it.
Oh yeah,
even the first planet they go to where there's like a location to, you set the map on a pedestal and it shows you the way. The pink leaf trees, very much that I don't remember the name of the trees, but they're in. You always see that picture in like samurai movies of those pink trees and shit, and it's like
a cherry blossom.
Yeah, that's what it was. Cherry blossom trees. So yeah, it had that kind of, and even the Ahsoka's fighting style.
We're all about to go get cherry blossom tattoos.
Even Ahsoka's like fighting style when she's dueling Balin first, he's very much has like a medieval sword style, and she's very much like, even though she normally dual wields.
He's the heavy. She's the light martial artist, like very, like you said, very Japanese, and her techniques and everything else.
Yeah, his stuff was very like
just brute
Eastern European sword fighting style, and she normally like dual wields, but she was like single wielding, and was very much using that kind of samurai style of sword fighting. And then when you get to when they make the jump to the other galaxy, you see Thrawn and his troopers, because they've been stranded on this planet for, I don't know, however many years at this point, 5, 6, 10, whatever. They don't have like, Imperial factories to get new armor and shit. So everybody's like armor's kind of dingy and cracked, but it's all pieced back together with like, looks like gold. So it's that, whatever, was it Kutsagi, the Japanese style of repairing broken things with gold. So like the kind of the damage becomes like arts. We smoked that cigar that was named after it. I can't remember.
Kintsugi.
Yeah, Kintsugi. So yeah, all their armor is kind of like pieced together with that gold, like Kintsugi style. And I was like, it just kind of adds to the whole, samurai movie aesthetic.
Well, it also helps if you have some witches too to hold some shit together.
Witches, please. Yeah, this is the first time we've seen live action Dathmorian witches too.
Yeah, they were creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize, like, in the Star Wars universe, like, actually how dark some of the stuff is. And I'm like, there was some legit, horror elements here. I'm like, that's kind of, the other thing that started me down the pathway of, I need to explore this more.
Yeah, because if anyone doesn't know, there's, in the Clone Wars cartoon series, Count Dooku's apprentice, Asajj Ventress, is of the Dathmorian witches, which are basically, they have a power similar to the Force, but they call it magic. And it's like the females are all, aka the witches, are kind of the leaders of this culture, where the men are kind of just brute slaves. Darth Maul was from Dathmor. He was a Dathmorian male. But in the Clone Wars cartoon series, like, the fucking Separatists, like, wiped out, all of the witches.
So like the fucking Salem witch trials all over again.
Yeah. So supposedly this galaxy far, far away is like the planet of origin where the witches originated before they came to Dathomir. And, apparently Thrawn woke up the ancient...
Thrawn, you are a thorn in my side.
Woke up the witch mothers and has been using them to kind of survive. And
the only thing is, I feel like, it's a very dark art, and I kind of feel like, all right, we will grant you this request, but it's going to take a piece of whatever humanity you have left, type thing. Like, there's got to be a price.
Yeah, because he seemed fairly normal, and the attention to detail too, because like, how his troops were all kind of fucked up. Like, when you see him, he's still like very, white, clean uniform. But if you look closely, you can see where like just the edges of things are frayed a little. Where like, even he's not, come out completely clean of this surviving in in this new environment.
I had a close call.
And you kind of using the witches to communicate with Morgan in the main Star Wars galaxy to kind of lead her there to rescue Thrawn.
All right, so,
and him coming back is like they're clearing out a whole bunch of things out of this catacombs that Not sure what they are, but they mentioned that Thrawn woke up the witches, so I'm pretty sure he just brought an army of either zombie witches or witches in some kind of stasis. That we're gonna get full on fucking witch battles in the whatever comes next.
Well, you made the reference, of Lord of the Rings. I mean, if we got bad witches, it stands to exist. There has to be good witches. So at what point do we get, the white witches? Like, that would be a very Wizard of Oz-esque, type thing.
That's one thing I'm kind of surprised too, since they're doing this talking about the witches, that we didn't get an appearance by a live action Ventress, because in the Clone Wars cartoon, eventually she abandoned the Sith and basically just became a bounty hunter. So maybe she'll show up at some point in whatever, if we get a season 2 or whatever movie or whatnot, because as far as we know, she's still alive.
I mean, this is a successful series. I don't see how you don't get a season 2.
Or, like I said, leads into whatever, because apparently Dave Filoni is already planning on some movies, so don't know where this story will be continued in a second season of Ahsoka or a future movie. I saw a theory today, though, because we know Thrawn is returned, and at the end of Mandalorian Season 3, he was like, hey, I want to become a bounty hunter again, but I don't want to work for bad guys anymore. So if y'all need any help hunting down Imperial remnants, I'll cut y'all a deal. So if Thrawn's back, that's probably going to be the number one target that the New Republic will want to hunt down. So does this lead us into Mandalorian Season 4? And it's fucking Mando going after Thrawn.
I can see that. I mean, it only stands to reason. Disney has a way of like, oh, we can't just have this one thing. It's all got to tie into all the things.
Oh.
It'd be like, well, I like the Mando. I like, Ahsoka. But here I am. Now I got to follow this new thing, to try to stay in the loop.
Oh, and I do like, let's talk about General Hera for a minute. I like when whatever, Sabine and Ahsoka go out and get in trouble, and she's like, all right, I'm taking the ghost. I'm going to go rescue him. And they're like, General, you can't. There's a meeting. He's like, it's the thing about being a general. You can disobey orders too. He's like, tell the council whatever you want. I'm going to go do this thing. And then you get, I can't remember, the captain from Mandalorian. He shows up to like back her up, and he's like, you're risking a whole lot doing this, General. And she's like, well, you know what they say, once a rebel, always a rebel. And he's like, on your lead, Phoenix leader, because the Phoenix Squadron was what she ran back in the day before she became a general. So bringing whoever wants to go a little rogue. Carson Teva, that's
just
his
really
name.
Disappointed that there wasn't room for fucking Black Sabbath war pigs in here. All the generals, witches in their black masses.
Oh shit!
Like,
it's fucking awesome. I didn't even think about that.
I don't know a lot, but I know how to tie music into some shit.
Oh, and we got Jason Hera, which is Jason and our Hera and Kanan Jarrus's son. I like when she's like, "All right, I need to talk to Ahsoka. Hu Yang, why don't you show him around your ship?" And he's like, "Do you know how to build lightsabers?" "Yes." "Will you train me?" "No." Or no, I was like, "Oh, you train Jedis? Will you train me?" He's like, "No." He's like, "You build lightsabers?" "Yes." "Will you help me build lightsabers?" "No." It's like, damn it, come on.
I mean,
be
he
a
is
Jedi.
just so matter of fact. Like,
Oh yeah, when he's like, he said I was like the worst Jedi he'd ever come across, or had the least potential of any Jedi he'd ever come across. It's like, you told her that? And he's like, yes, it's true. And I do like when, because they're traveling across the galaxy inside of a space whale, where he's like, oh yeah, this is just like the story. She's like, yeah, this reminds me of the stories you told me in the when I was a kid. He's like, I still have all those stories in my head if you want to know. She's like, nah, maybe later. And then they start discussing how Sabine, instead of sacrificing the map and saving the galaxy, she chose to go save Ezra at the risk of the entire galaxy. And Hu Yang rightfully points out, she's like, well, and she's like, well, yeah, I didn't train her enough to make the right choice. And she's like, well, maybe for her that was the only choice. And she's like, all right, you may be right, but how about you tell me one of those stories? Let's change the subject. Tell me one of those stories. He's like, all right, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And I was like, fuck yes. It's like hearing somebody say that shit out loud in a Star Wars thing. It's just, I got way more excited about that than I should have. And, we talked about kind of Ahsoka's transition. I like Sabine's kind of story arc as well, where she starts off, first off, she's trying to be a Jedi. And so she's like, no armor. I'm going to use a lightsaber, and gets fucked up. So then she's like, all right, I'm a fucking Mandalorian. I'm going to do Mandalorian shit. Armor's up, dual wields, guns. But that's not enough. And when she finally kind of unlocks her force potential, she finds that balance between being a Mandalorian and being a Jedi and becoming a Mandalorian Jedi, where she's like dual wielding blaster in one hand, lightsaber in the other, and finally starts to fuck shit up. It's like she has to balance kind of the two sides of her personality to find kind of her way of being a Jedi.
Well, and I think that's, I don't know, for the Jedi to be the light and the good guy, and it's like, no, you just rob kids from their home and throw them into your ideology. There's no room outside of the Jedi code where, this now, it's like, yeah, if you got fuck a lightsaber, that, or, you know what, fix bayonets and have a fucking lightsaber mounted on your blaster.
Which, Ezra did that at one point. In the Rebels cartoon series, the lightsaber that he gives to Sabine is his second lightsaber. His first lightsaber was a blaster and a lightsaber combo. It got destroyed on some episodes. They had to build a new one. And that, yeah, when the bad guys, when he finally meets up with him and the bad guys show him, she's like, here, have your lightsaber. He's like, no, it's your lightsaber. He's like, no, this is your. He's like, no, I gave it to you. It's your lightsaber now. I don't need a lightsaber. The Force is my ally. And Kung Fu. What the hell is it? Iman Esfandi, who plays he did a good job of playing the grown-up version of Ezra Bridger. He very much had that kind of childlike attitude where when he's like, who the hell's that? She's like, she's like you, but less fun. He's like, lightsaber? Yep. He's like, fuck.
But I don't know. I mean, overall, the arc was good. All the characters had a good transition, Ahsoka, learning how to,
be a master.
Exactly. I'm like, it's not so much Sabine failing as you just wanting to teach this one way and only that way.
Yeah, and she's very much when she gets knocked into the spirit world and faces Spirit Anakin, he's like, I'm here to teach you one last lesson. It's called Live or Die. And starts going through like key moments in the Clone Wars. And I've heard like supposedly they're making a series with the actress who played young Ahsoka in this. And he's like, she's, I guess you call it like survivor's guilt or something, where she's very, she walked away. She's like, maybe if I didn't walk away from Anakin, he wouldn't have turned to the dark side. And I walked away from Sabine because after the Mandalore got blown up, I thought if she became a Jedi, she would fall to the dark side because she would seek vengeance. And it's very much like all her own like insecurities. And, and when she has to fight, Anakin and shit, and finally like, beats him, and she's like, I want to live. And he's like, there's hope for you yet. Like you're no longer living in the past with like this fear. You're now like, I don't want to just kind of sacrifice myself. I want to go on and improve the galaxy, one way or the another.
There's just so much to dissect with this.
Yeah, it's. But speaking of witches and horror, we got motherfucking zombie stormtroopers.
Yeah, like you had sent me that text, and I'm like, and I saw them like with the red. I'm like, that's not a zombie storm. And then the episode progressed, and I'm like, that's a fucking zombie. Like legitimately, like fucking trying to like bite at fucking people and stuff. I'm like.
Yeah, like they're trying to delay, Ahsoka and her team so they can escape the planet.
I mean, which that might work better for stormtroopers anyway, because they're not doing shit with a fucking blaster. Like, I don't understand why they haven't given up on the stormtrooper thing. Like, I mean, I get it; they're just cannon fodder, but still, like, can they not just like.
It's hard to see shit in those helmets, apparently.
Yeah. Well, you just.
And then you get some Mando helmets. Those things you can see out of, apparently better than stormtrooper helmets. Oh.
But I mean, just like an entire we got a small squadron of like 6 or 8 dude. If you had a whole fucking platoon, like that's absolutely formidable at that point.
I do like zombie. Stuff still applies in a galaxy far, far away because you got to take off the head to stop the zombie. But yeah, he's like, gets a squad to volunteer to slow them down before they get to the ship, and he tells the witches like, I need your power one more time. They're like, all right, yeah, we got you, homie. So like as soon as like they take out all the stormtroopers, witches cast a spell and they all start rising and shit, and like you see like the flash of like the green magic inside their helmets and stuff. And you're like. And she's like, Ezra, has this ever happened before? And he's like, no, this is new on me. And then you get, when they battle all the way to like the top of the spire, and you get the 2 death troopers, that apparently those guys have been zombies for a while, because like their masks are smashed. And you can just see just rotting, legit trying to bite motherfuckers and shit. You're like, oh, goddamn, fucking Star Wars zombies. This is all, because they did a couple like horror books, Death Trooper and Red Harvest, which kind of took place. It was like a zombie apocalypse in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, this is the first time I've seen them bring that shit into live action. And it was like, this is fucking awesome.
See, now I'm gonna have to check out those books. This is gonna be a never-ending rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, just look at all the books around. See, if you don't go into the Legends canon, you just go with the new shit, there's not that many books. If you try to do it all, yeah, you're going to be there a while.
It's like
30 versus 200, yeah.
3,200?
Oh.
I'm going to be like, dude, I found this thing. It's like, it was really bad. All right, Brad, like, You've exhausted like actual Star Wars stuff. You're just now reading fan fiction.
I didn't know there was so much porn in the Star Wars universe. No, dude, you're on the wrong website. That's. Oh.
That's why I shop on Audible.
Oh. And also we get some weirdness. Not only do we have the land between land, they're able to get Ezra aboard the Star Destroyer, and Thrawn escapes back to our universe with his giant hyperspace ring, supposedly leaving Ahsoka and Sabine stranded on this planet. But then we get a few clues that maybe they're not stranded, because in the world between worlds from Rebels, you could kind of use that as a pathway to travel between time and space. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some kind of portal on this planet to get them back to the regular universe.
That or somebody that hasn't quite been introduced yet is going to make an appearance.
Well, at the end, when they're kind of wrapping everything up, it shows Baylan Skoll standing atop these giant statues, which looks a whole lot like the Mortis gods from Clone Wars, and he's pointing at something, which in the that's how Ezra found the world between worlds to begin with, was a painting of that dude pointing at something that turned out to be the fucking portal. And in kind of the Clone Wars and shit, the Mortis gods, there was the father who represented the balance, the son, which kind of represented the dark side, and the daughter who represented the light side. Well, in that episode of the Clone Wars, she dies and to save Ahsoka, and it was kind of implied that Anakin was going to be the new son and Ahsoka was going to be the new daughter. So this is possibly the planet that not only like is the origin planet of the witches, but the origin planet of the Force itself, since those god statues are there. So do we even get Ahsoka coming back to the main universe, or is she going to be, her and Sabine, going to be stopping Baylan Skoll from, I don't know, becoming some kind of Force god or some shit? Are they stuck on that planet, in the next stop it? Because she's like, where everyone is where they need to be. Ezra's home and we're here and everyone's where they need to be. So I'm like, are they destined to stop whatever shit Baylan's going to try to commit there on that planet, or
No.
or are they just going to find the portal and get their ass back home?
Luke's going to show up.
Because she also sees that bird too, which the bird kind of represented the daughter, and has kind of shown up to act as a guide for Ahsoka in a few things in the Clone Wars and Rebels series. So the fact that she sees the bird at the end is like, follow me. I'm going to show you all the portal home. Or I'm just going to show you where the bad guys are.
As the crow flies.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy is now in Star Wars. I already got speeder bikes.
Yeah, pretty much same thing. I did see somebody who made a legit speeder bike. It was like, the way it was set up, you couldn't see the wheels of the motorcycle that was obviously inside the speeder bike thing. But yeah, there was like a dude who built like an actual speeder bike.
Okay, I'm going to put that on my after the wedding list.
Do or do not. There is no try. Yeah, she's like, you been keeping up with your training? I do. So I'm going to stop you before you... Oh. Yeah, and I like... Once Ahsoka kind of comes back from that near-death experience, she seems much lighter. Like she's more smiling and more like kind of playful. Where before she was like very serious, which is very un-Ahsoka-like. Where it's nice to see her kind of go back to the more lighthearted character that she was like when she was she regained some of her childlike wonder in the Force.
Yeah, because a little bit of Rebels that I remember. Yeah, she's just very youthful, very, very much childlike. And then I'm like, okay, she just went like full on mom mode. Like, take it back a few notches.
Oh, we also got like a live action version of Rex. Like, definitely want to see more.
Yeah,
of him.
I was like, so much more badass in Star Wars than what I could ever pull off when we were playing X-Wing. I'd be like, oh, I got decimated. Dude, that's not supposed to happen.
Oh, and that whole scene where like Hera and Chopper in the Phantom trying to throw the tracker on that that ship that was leaving, and Chopper's like, fucking, he's like, no, I haven't been touching your stuff. Just get the fucking tracker, and this time don't miss. And it's like, I was like, oh, this, like, them two like bickering at each other. It's like, I was like, oh, this is just straight up. It's fucking Rebels in live action. This is fucking awesome. or when she gets she's on trial for disobeying orders and going off on her own, where it's like, C-3PO shows up to save her ass, and he's like, I'm here on behalf of Senator Organa, who did not know y'all had a meeting without her, and as head of the Security Council, she will let this slide. But yeah, this mission was authorized, and like he's like, are we gonna take the word of a mere droid? And Chopper's like, motherfucker. Captain, he was like, no, calm down, Chopper. Chopper's ready to like cut a motherfucker.
Such a gangster.
Yeah, even C-3PO's like, yeah. Leia said this shit was cool, so you got any more questions? And the Chancellor, well, that settles things unless you want to argue some more. No, I'm not going to argue anymore. And like she goes up to Harry, it's like, I don't know what y'all are playing at, but we both know like she didn't authorize this mission. Like, yeah, she did. Eventually. Because like, in the new Star Wars movies, Leia's running something she calls the Resistance, and kind of in some of the newer books, it's like, yeah, she's like, all right, this government can't take care of itself, so I'm gonna have to basically start my own like secret military to stop the threats to the New Republic. The New Republic's too stupid to fucking stop on their own. And I very much see like Hera, like her eventually be like, all right, Hera, you've done as much as you can in the official defense force. Like, time to join the Resistance.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that, all the senators are just so passive. I'm just like...
Yeah, she's like, did you serve in the war? He's like, well, no. He's like, oh, so you just hung out and waited to see which side came out on top.
I was going to, but I had bad knees.
Yeah. I had asthma. I couldn't join.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's why I smoke cigars now.
Yep, punishing my lungs.
I mean, if I keep punishing them, it's going to make them stronger. They're going to have to work harder. It's like a muscle. They're going to build. My lungs are as strong as they've ever been.
I do just want to kind of see an origin of how, like, Ahsoka found Hu Yang. Oh, yeah, that's the thing, too. I liked when Ezra starts building a new lightsaber. Because he's like, no, like, I gave you my lightsaber. So he's like in the Hu Yang's workshop, and he's like, here, use this. He's like, no, it's too small. He's like, I've been building lightsabers since before you were alive. They're like, yeah, but I'm looking for something specific. And she's like, he's like, well, who taught you how to build lightsabers? Kanan Jarrus. He's like, oh. He's like, how about this? And it's like the same lightsaber emitter that Kanan had on his lightsaber. And he's like, yeah, I'm the one who taught him how to build a lightsaber, and I had two of these. I gave one to him, and I kept this one just in case he ever needed a replacement. So it's fitting that you should have it. So it's like, at the end, his lightsaber very much looks a lot like his master's lightsaber, which I thought was kind of a cool connection.
That looked like it would be like a pretty common piece, though.
Apparently every Jedi's lightsaber is unique. That's how they kind of identify Balin. He's like, I know every lightsaber ever built because I taught everyone how to build lightsabers. So, I mean, it's like your lightsaber's a fingerprint. They don't like, they don't mass produce the lightsabers. Every Jedi has to make their shit just a little unique. Kind of like all us, gun guys now. They're like, we got to Cerakote and engrave our shit so it looks unique. Everybody's got to have something just a little bit
It's got to have a reflection of personality.
Yeah. Everybody sets their shit up just a wee bit different than everybody else.
Except for me. I'm just like, it's going to be plain. It's like everybody's talking about their custom Glocks, and I'm like, I got my stock Glocks.
Get you a 10 millimeter.
That's why I started with 40, and I got with 9, just because it was common, and at the time it was cheaper.
Yeah. Ammo-wise, it's cheaper. But apparently 10 mil is the new hotness, because everyone's like, I gotta get me a 10 mil. That shit hit harder.
That's just like, the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Now they got the, 8.6. Which is like the new 300 black, but bigger. Everybody got to have that new hotness. Oh, speaking of new hotness, so what do you think?
Mine's just going to be a 4-bore. I'm just going all the way up.
That thing's fucking insane. It's like a goddamn shoulder-fired artillery piece. Got hurt like a motherfucker.
Yeah, for whatever it hits. I'd be like, hey, we had a tree there for, a target. Target's no longer there, and the tree's laying over on its side.
Oh, I do like, in Rebels, fucking Ezra was always constantly stealing stormtrooper armor and sneaking into places. And that's how he makes it he ends up stranded on a Thrawn ship, and he's like, nope, time to pull an Ezra special and dress up as a stormtrooper.
I mean, what better way to blend in,
And then rolls in and like Balin's ship that he's stolen, and it's like, hi Hera, I'm home. Like, all the troopers draw down on him. He lands in the ship, and then Chopper's like, wait a minute, I know this motherfucker.
It's like a dog. It's like, I recognize the scent, even with the armor.
Armor probably stank real bad though.
It's fine. That's how you keep the zombies at bay.
Yeah, you gotta blend in. You get that stank on you. Stankonia. So where do you think we go from here? What's the next in the galaxy far, far away? Do you think we're getting some kind of version of Heir to the Empire? It certainly looks like they're setting that shit up. Which I'm wondering how they'll kind of change the story from the original Heir to the Empire story. Because that shit certainly didn't have witches in it.
I don't know. Maybe, he called for one last favor. Maybe we're done with the witches.
He just drops them off on their planet and like, all right, do your thing. Like, I brought you and your survivors or whatever the things are in those capsules back to Dathomir for y'all to rebuild. So now I'm going to go track down the Imperial remnant. What didn't get blown up on Mandalore when the Mandalorians fucked up Moff Gideon.
I don't know. I kind of feel like we get the Mando kind of crossover that you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, because if they're going to do like the Heir to the Empire story, that was very much like Luke, Leia, Han heavy, and in the time frame we're at, all those people are way too old. So did we get the de-aged digital Luke?
Well, and I've seen that theory, and
because I mean they've done de-aged Luke pretty good in Mandalorian series. So
the only thing is the amount of editing and everything else.
Yeah, you almost have to
be stupid expensive.
Yeah, to have say a full movie with Luke, I don't know if the de-aging is going to be enough. Like you may have to like recast, which Sebastian Stan looks like fucking young Mark Hamill. Oh, they got it. He's already in the Disney family. He's fucking Winter Soldier. So that's all they do is got to get him to play play new Luke. But and get what's his name that played Han and Solo to play play Han in the New World.
I mean, I get it. It's nostalgic for those but at some point, like, I'm tired of everything now feeding on the nostalgia factor. Like, I'm ready for new, fresh ideas. Like, let's fucking pass the torch and actually pass the fucking torch and kind of move on, you know?
That's the thing is, like, the stuff Disney Plus has been doing has been so much better than the
and that's
new
my
movies
point
we've
exactly.
gotten.
Like, you know, if
Yeah, let Favreau and the people that are writing this shit write movies, because
you know, and
the last
maybe
three
that's-
movies we got were just dog shit. Well, I won't say dog shit, but they were inconsistent, and they
And
were
maybe
basically
they
just
don't need
redoing Star Wars.
to necessarily be movies, because, you know, I feel like the theatrical pressure that comes with that is so much more like
Speaking of that, fucking bullshit from this last movie that came out, that literally, like, in the opening crawl, it just says, somehow the Emperor returned. And then Dave Filoni gave us a whole fucking series that showed you how Grand Admiral Thrawn returned, instead of just saying, somehow Thrawn returned.
yeah.
I wish they'd have given that kind of, like, storytelling to the fucking movies, because there's no explaining, like, hey, Emperor's back, deal with it.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, like, you know, most of these episodes were somewhere in the 45 to 50 minute range. You know, if you try to compress that down to even a 2.5 or 3 hour, like, you still wouldn't have been able to, you know, give what this season did as far as...
No, this would have to be for the same runtime, this would have been like a trilogy of films.
But, you know, like, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm enjoying the series so much, because, you know, like...
I don't have to wait 2-3 years to
Exactly.
conclude a storyline.
It's
Which
like-
this one did a very good job of telling us a coherent, singular story, but then also setting up for whatever the next story is. Where it's, you know, if this was a movie, we would have been cliffhanger, wait 3 years, cliffhanger, wait 3 years, finally get a conclusion.
Maybe, you know, because, you know, would this have had the popularity in a theatric environment? You know, if this is competing with whatever the other, you know, blockbuster hits are, you know, lined up to be, does this get the attention?
Or if one doesn't get... is not very popular, and then no one watches the next one. Like, where this is, we got 8 episodes, we got two months worth of time to complete this story. Where, like, we saw that when the new movies came out and they were doing like one a year, people disliked the second one so much that when Solo came out, Solo kind of bombed, even though it was probably a better movie than the 3 main trilogy, because they were just getting, you know, too much at once, I guess, or not great quality of stuff. So it, you know,
Well, I mean, you like,
I don't know, I guess there's less risk with TV, where I can I don't have to leave my house to go to a theater to watch Star Wars. Like, I can...
and you're not banking on, you know, okay, we've got Mark Hamill, who we're expecting, because of the name recognition and everything, and his, you know, lineage with the Star Wars franchise, to carry this film. Like, you can't put that on one dude and be like...
But that sequence of him at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, when he shows up and fucks up all those, like, Death Troopers, if they do Heir to the Empire, I kind of want to see, like, that Luke. Because we've never really gotten good Luke at his prime. I mean, he was still kind of becoming a Jedi in the original trilogy, and in the new trilogy, he's, like, old man, past his prime, Yoda Luke. I want to see Luke in his prime, like, fucking shit up. So if they do either a series or a movie of Heir to the Empire, even if they have to recast it, I want to see that Luke. I think we got kind of cheated out of that with this new trilogy, where we didn't even get Luke in the first movie until, like, the very end, and then he's kind of grumpy hermit through most of that shit. I want to see fucking
old man on my island.
Yeah, I want to see Master fucking Skywalker fucking shit up, and I hope we get some version of that as they kind of fill in the time.
And maybe that's why, like, you know, you've been around, the franchise, all your life. I've been the last 10 years, and like I didn't even know, like, oh yeah, there was a time where he was an absolute badass and blah blah blah. Like, I'm with you. Like, The Mandalorian is what gave me that glimpse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is that in all of the films?
Yeah. Well, as we kind of wrap this up, or we know they're planning a kind of a continuation trilogy with Rey in like the and I think it's titled The New Jedi Order. Do we get Ahsoka coming back from like the far reaches where the fuck she's dropped on this planet with like, oh yeah, I've been training a whole bunch of new Jedi over here in this galaxy far, far away, and like we actually finally get a movie where there's like in the books like Luke rebuilt the Jedi Order. They were like hundreds of Jedi, which we didn't get that in the new trilogy. It's like, oh, we killed them all off again. Luke's still like the last motherfucker, and this Rey chick that so like we've never gotten movie of since like the prequels. We've never gotten a movie with a whole Jedi Order. Just been a handful of dudes. So it'd be kind of nice to see a universe with more than like 5 Jedi.
And that in itself is the Jedi mind trick.
So what do you think of your cigar there?
Wonderful. I mean, I'm still enjoying it. Not much of a huge transition. It's remained. I will say that the spice that I was getting there at the beginning it's kind of subtled, and it's turned more into everything that I like from a good Nicaraguan cigar. It's, hints of leather, just a touch of spice, all around just wonderful flavor.
And if you haven't, you need to try this V23, because I think this would be, we have similar tastes, so I think this one would be up your alley. It kind of started off slow, like very earthy and nutty, but the strength and the pepperness has picked up as I've gone through. I'm kind of in the final third here, and it's definitely stronger than I thought it was going to be from like the initial light up. So it's kind of just, it's like, all right, we're going to start you slow, and then we're just going to slowly ramp up as you go, and then it'll probably.
So what you're saying
come
is
in
the
for a
foot
landing
is
event.
on the throttle.
Oh yeah, full throttle. Remember those? I haven't drank one of those in forever.
Had one a few weekends ago, I think.
That's all we got for you this week. We'll be right back with some news. Check us out. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on the YouTubes, and we'll be right back. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com and on the ESO Network, esonetwork.com. And don't forget, smoke them if you got them. Like, comment, and subscribe.